triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Battle for freedom. Good morning, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio. Listen, so you can see my ugly mug and we can do this the right way. Actually, let's get some lights, cameras, and action so you can know how we're going to be doing this program today. Listen, there's a lot I want to talk to you about. There's so much, like in the time that we're going this, I'm going to be building this show as we sit here and talk about this. But we have a guest who's going to be joining me today as we sit here talking about this present darkness, breaking the canopy of evil. You know what? He says a lot. He is available to you on Mojo 50 Radio as well. And so there are going to be times that I talk enough as it is. So I really want to hear more from him. And again, I'll be putting his information up here as we go through this. But if you want to, my website's battle4freedom.com. If you can, do me a favor, also go to mojo50.com. We call it Mojo50, but it's mojo50.com. Learn the different shows, learn the different programs that are available for you to learn, hear, and appreciate that's on this network because of the fact that, trust me, I assure you, when we get into this and we start talking about just the amazingness of what you guys are gonna have some fun here as we sit here talking about this darkness that's coming. This darkness that's coming this way. Holy moly, guacamole, folks! It's crazy. You've seen everything that's been taking place in this city right now. You've been watching everything that's been taking place in this country right now. We need help. We need help. And so I'm bringing help in with me. And help that you may need is some American Pride Roasters coffee. So please let me not forget to tell you about that. And my favorite blend, of course, a blend named after me. Why would I go wrong in not telling you about Watson's White Caramel Chocolate? That's it. I've hit the snooze button a dozen times and now I have to finally get going. But I'm not going to do this day right if I don't start it off with a cup of American Pride Roasters coffee, the official coffee of Mojo 50 Radio. But I'm not going to lie to you. They have a wide variety of blends, but I'm leaning towards the one that's named after me, Watson's White Chocolate Caramel. You know what? It sounds as good as those words that just rolled off of my mouth. Listen, get it today, AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Tell them that Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you. And you want Watson's White Chocolate Caramel Blend to start your day off. Join American Pride Roasters Coffee and Mojo 50 Radio, and most important, Battle for Freedom, as we celebrate the best coffee in the nation, American Pride Roasters. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shut up. I'm going to start bringing in the picture here so you can see who it is that's going to be on the radio program with me today. Yes, it's the one and the only Mike Phillip from American Duck Radio, who comes on Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you know what, Mike? Introduce yourself, as I'm having fun trying to set everything up for everyone to understand what's going on here. Introduce yourself, tell them about your show, give them the whole lowdown from the listeners who may not have a chance to turn on the radio and hear the beautiful yodeling voice from Canada. Canada.
Well, thanks a lot for having me on, Watson. Wow, Battle for Freedom. I'm on Battle for Freedom. I've made it. My broadcast career has reached the apex. It's I'm a little nervous. I don't know what to do here. I've never. Wow.
if this is your apex, you're really aiming low, brother. Low fruit. Low fruit.
No, I am proud to come on your show this morning. It was unexpected. Today, actually, interestingly enough, I have a fill-in host that's going to be broadcasting live from London, England. Her name is Rhea Bowe. She's going to be covering on American Duck Radio. And I just learned that I've been spelling Mojo 50 wrong this whole time. Thank you, Watson. That turns out that's a 0. American Duck Radio started about 4.5 years ago. I grew up in radio stations. My dad was a lineman with the U.S. Army. He moved up to Canada, met my mother in the province of Alberta. They ended up back in Chicago. Then they were in Mishawaka for a brief time, then Madison, Wisconsin. I was about 2 weeks away from being born in Wisconsin, and my parents ended up back in Alberta. So, like I said, my father went to broadcast school in 1985. I went with him. The guy that ran the place was kind of a pioneer of radio in Western Canada. He was one of the original guys that made it happen. So a lot of the big names for here anyway, if I mention that Mel Stevens was my mentor in broadcasting, they all kind of do a, oh, really? And then I went back to broadcast school in 1995. Now, broadcasting has changed a lot, let me tell you, Watson. Back in the day, newsmen all had crew cuts and black horn-rimmed glasses like Jim Garrison on the JFK movie. And they all had a Mickey of whiskey in their desk, and there was a layer of thick smoke in a newsroom. And it was just very different. And Mel was a character. You remember the thing on Fantastic Four?
Yes.
That was Mel. That was Mel. And he kind of spoke in low, grunting voices a lot of the time. And he would walk by your desk. He would look at you disgusted. And then he would go into his office and you could hear him typing furiously. And he would type a memo and then come back and put it on your desk and just walk away kind of shaking his head and mumbling. I think he was swearing. And, you go to read it and Mel had just wrote you this memo. It says, your on-air news presentation this morning was a nightmare of popping P's and hissing S's, but cheer up, there's a good future in shipping and receiving. And so that's what I learned broadcasting on. But now with the internet, everybody with a phone has a YouTube channel and they call themselves this and that radio or this and that radio. And I used to get my shirt in a knot over it. It's like, you're not radio. You don't even get it. You don't even know. Since then, I've lightened up and fine, whatever. Use the word if you want. But I am very proud to be on Mojo 50. We started out on the Genesis Communications Network. We were live right before Roger Stone, actually.
Oh, nice.
Back when, yeah, Roger had his own show, Stone Cold Truth, and then he got involved with Alex Jones. And Alex was kind of the golden boy of Genesis Communications, and I knew his producer. We were in contact semi-regularly anyways, and I was going to be a guest, kind of a regular contributor for what's going on in Western Canada for InfoWars. Then Alex decided to go big, and Genesis Communications kind of was, he outgrew it, let's put it that way. Built 3 more studios. He's got David Knight on in the morning and that other kid, Owen Schroyer, in the afternoon. And so he's done very well. A lot of people trash talk Alex. He's done a lot. Let's put it that way. And, somebody asked me, why is he so angry all the time? Why is he dwelling on the bad things on the planet? And I said, look, the worst thing that could happen to Alex Jones is that he wakes up one day and the world is perfect, because he'd have nothing, right? So that's his deal.
I'm tired of the world being perfect. There's nothing I can say. This makes me mad.
Yeah.
What are we in heaven?
I will eat my neighbor's ass.
What are we in heaven? I gotta create evil.
So then I played a soundbite. There was a Body Count song. Remember Body Count with Ice-T back during the Rodney King riots and everything? Ice-T went and did that kind of a heavy metal rap album. Well, they had a song with a voiceover at the beginning with Dave Mustaine of Megadeth. And it was like, this is the office of the president. Martial law has been declared. Stay inside your home after 9 p.m. or you will be shot. And it was going on like that, but it had the national emergency alert sound at the beginning. Kind of went for about 2 seconds. Well, I used it for a bump, and I didn't know this, but apparently if you play that tone, it triggers the system. And we were on this big HD FM affiliate in Washington, D.C. that we had just picked up, WONK FM HD2. And we set off the national emergency alert system. And so we were very unceremoniously let go from GCN. And I had been talking to Ron about picking up Mojo as an affiliate, as it were. And the only problem they had was that GCN's show clock was different than Mojo. So I called Ron and I said, the show clock is not an issue anymore, Ron. I can tailor the show to whatever you guys need. And we started out on weekends. Apparently people liked American Rock Radio, and now we're daily. So very proud to be hanging out with the Mojo crew these days.
Well, we're glad that you're part of the network. Seriously, brother. What is it? The show above, what is it, above the 49th parallel?
Or news and information from both sides of the 49th parallel.
Okay. Well, we
and
really
ridiculosity.
Well, we really appreciate it. Again, everyone. I will have the graphics up here, hopefully before the halftime, when we come back on the break. But understand this: 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have not picked up, if you're not running on your phone or your app, iHeartRadio. If you don't have access to, just get your act, go to Spreaker. We'll make sure you have all the links that you can listen to this program and hear not just myself, but Mike and every other program that's available to you on Mojo 50 Radio. So Mike, when we were earlier, we were talking and we're just talking about this whole idea of there's this darkness. And I remember when I was talking to you this morning and you were saying to me that you were listening to some interesting news this morning. Care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so, okay, it's funny because Watson and I, for everybody listening or watching, we have been talking a lot lately, and turns out that we're turning out to be pretty good friends, and we had talked about getting together and praying for Mojo and the hosts, and just, God's purpose being furthered in this whole thing. And I had forgot that we had set a time to do that, and it was 4:30 a.m. And I usually, like yesterday, I was up at 3:30. I don't know why. I just, I like that time to myself, and I get up and I pray and I read my Bible and listen for that still small voice. But today, it's 4:30 a.m. I'm kind of half in and out, when you're in that weird spot. But we had this national news show that runs in Canada on the CBC. The CBC is the Canadian state broadcaster, right? Canada has the CBC, Britain has the BBC, Australia has the ABC, right? It's the same in all of these British colony countries that are, in under the umbrella of the Queen, as it were, which I never understood why you need a queen in 2020. I just don't get it. But anyways, they get $1 billion a year, okay? The CBC gets $1 billion a year from the government, and they haven't had a top show in my lifetime. And they put out these ridiculous, stupid propaganda. I think their biggest show was called Little Mosque on the Prairie. You remember Little House on the Prairie? Well, it was about a bunch of Muslims that moved into rural Saskatchewan, and all of the old stock Canadians that lived there were all a bunch of dumb, stupid, backward hicks that could barely tie their shoelaces, and the Muslims were smart and urbane and sophisticated in their burqas, and so that gives you a little idea of the CBC. So this morning we've got the National with Lisa LaFlamme on. I don't know how, because I never intentionally turn into it, but I'm in bed, right?
Did you say Lisa LaFlamme or LaFlamme?
LaFlamme, but LaFlamme works too.
Okay.
That's fine. Yes. So she's got Susan Rice on, and they're doing a half-hour segment on why Trump is bad for Canada. And I'm thinking to myself, why is the state broadcaster in Canada working overtime to convince Canadians that Trump is bad? And so then it goes, Suzanne Rice points out that there are approximately 680,000 Americans living in Canada. And you need to mobilize. We got to get this guy out because Canada's our best friend. And Joe Biden isn't going to put tariffs on aluminum and designate Canada a security threat. Well, Canada is a security threat to the United States. Let me tell you right now, Canada's not your friend. In fact, I think that Canada was set up about 100 years after the United States as a beachhead for British interests in North America because they had just had their asses handed to them by a bunch of drunks, farmers, and preachers in the United States. And so they wanted to keep a foothold in North America, and that's what I think Canada is. In fact, Benedict Arnold, famous traders and loyalists to King George, came to Canada and were given land and were given titles and were, you know what I mean? So that history goes way back. Now, Eastern Canada is very anti-American, and the propaganda that Canadians are hit with their entire lives is you are only, first of all, because you are Canadian, by virtue of that you are more righteous than anybody on the planet, and everybody will love you because you are Canadian. Second, you are only as Canadian as you are anti-American. That's what they're taught. And they believe it. Now, where I live in Western Canada, the province of Alberta, they really hate us, okay? Eastern Canada hates Alberta, and I'll tell you why. Because this area was colonized by Americans coming up from South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Texas, Utah, Colorado. They had the cattle drives because the Canadian government wanted to settle this land and populate it, so they put out the call to Americans saying, come up and grab some land. So we had the cattle drives, and to this day, it's celebrated by the Calgary Stampede, which is a huge worldwide event. And what it is a celebration of Americans colonizing Western Canada. I forgot what the original question was, but I went down that road.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, but just the whole idea is like there's this level of evil, there's this level of insanity that they just have to make Donald Trump out to be this evil monster, and for those of you who tuned in late, one of the things here's my cover graphic, and it shows on the right hand side there's an image of an angel stepping over a demon, and on the left hand side you have the Marquis of Hollywood going through the Capitol. The title of this program is called This Present Darkness because of the fact that many of you, 24 years ago, when I moved here to Indiana, when I was working in Kokomo, Indiana, and I had a chance to be exposed to Frank Peretti, and he has two books called This Present Darkness and Piercing the Darkness, and it's this excellent novel. It's riveting in terms of talking about spiritual battle, spiritual warfare. And sometimes, just the boogeymen that, we normally talk about that's out there, the evil that for some strange reason many people don't want to consider. It's clear. It's plain to see. And again, I had Mike bring up the story because of the fact, again, what hill of beans does someone in Canada have to do in trying to convince people in Canada of the quote-unquote evil of Donald Trump when there's so much evil present there on what they're doing and what they've ignored and what they've allowed. And remember, too, now correct me if I'm right on this. I think maybe I've heard this from you, but doesn't Canada depend? Isn't a lot of Canada's whole economy based on what business they can get from the United States? Or am I wrong on this?
I will answer that, but first I just have to say, Kokomo, Indiana.
Yeah.
Didn't the Beach Boys write a song about that place?
Yes, they did.
Very well, mama, come on, pretty mama. Okay, so yes, Canada's economy. Okay, look, we have the longest undefended border on the planet. Well, it used to be undefended. Now it's increasingly getting militarized by the day. And that actually started with 9/11. It used to be that you could just drive down to the U.S. border or up to the Canadian border, depending where you were, and just, show a driver's license or whatever. Sometimes they didn't even ask for that. and you just drove in, right? After 9/11, they set up the Patriot Act, and all of a sudden, you had to have a passport to cross that border. All right. So they've been ratcheting that up ever since. But as to your first question, yes, that is correct. About 85% of Canada's GDP is directly because of the United States of America. So Canadians have a weird, smarmy, we hate America thing. But it's kind of, have you ever seen a little brother that is extremely jealous of his older brother? And every time the older brother says something, the little brother says, "No, right?" And that's kind of the relationship. And I get into this conversation with people all the time where they're just generally dumping on the United States or Trump or whatever the case might be. And it's like, they say, well, I think we'd be better off doing trade with China. And I'm thinking to myself, are you stupid? Like that's you do realize that's across the Atlantic, right? And America's the largest economy in the world is right on your doorstep.
Yeah.
There have been, these conversations. Now look, this is beautiful. I don't know if you heard my show yesterday. But President Trump just gave a big present to Alberta, where I live. And I've got friends that have contacts in the West Wing that there was a former CIA contractor, my friend Wayne Simmons. He was buried by the Clintons and the law firm of Perkins Coie in Washington, D.C. Perkins Coie was representing him and the Clintons at the same time, which was conflict of interest. And they set him up under Judge T.S. Ellis, District Circuit Court. I can't remember which one. But anyways, this guy's a swamp creature going way back, defending the Clintons over everything. Long story short, this guy was a intel analyst on Fox News. He rode Air Force One down to Guantanamo Bay to inspect it with a civilian task force. He just had a huge amount of credentials, and he started really going after the Clintons on Benghazi. And this was back in 2014, 13. They set him up, they raided him, and they tossed him in prison. Well, he's out, and we were the first media outlet to let him tell his story. Neil Cavuto on Fox apologized for having him on air. And so him and I have become really good friends. He's in the process of being vindicated right now. And he has been forwarding material that I've been sending him to this. He's got a couple of them, actually. His son is a counter sniper on the Secret Service, protects the president every day.
Nice.
And so we've been sending Trump this material that myself and Peter Downing, the co-founder of the Wexit Party, for the AB 51. We want to make Alberta the 51st state of the Union.
Nice.
So we weren't sure if this was getting through or what was going on. We hadn't heard anything, and we were told not to expect to hear anything until after the election. Well, last Friday, President Trump authorized a rail line from Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska, to Fort McMurray, Alberta, in order to get minerals, energy products, oil and gas, and grain and agricultural products to ports to get to Asian markets. Now, President Trump did not have to do this. Yeah. He did not. And what it was a major tip of the hat to Alberta, because that's been our problem this whole time. Canada has been conducting siege warfare on Alberta. The province of BC will not let us build pipelines to get our gas and oil to the coast in order to get shipped out to international markets. And east of us, Quebec will not allow us to either. So the people here are being starved out. There's been hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. There's been suicides. It's bad. And along comes President Trump and signs a deal for a $22 billion train line to Alaska from Alberta, solving the problem.
Wow, folks, listen, this is deep. This is deep. I'm here with Mike Phillip from American Duck Radio. We're going to go to a break, and we'll talk to you on the flip side. This election will be vital to the health and sustainability of our country. Our role from this day on could steer the election in either direction. Why? The way we treat one another. In John 13:35, Jesus says, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." We know that every election cycle brings out the worst in us. If there was ever a point for honesty, it is in how we act during election season. As much as we would want our candidate to win, attacking a person with contrary opinions only makes them determined to reject our point of view all the more. It may come off as ignorant from them, but we cannot claim innocence if we allow arrogance and disrespect to be the means in which we communicate with those who support the other party or other candidates. Our goal was and will never be to convert voters. Our role is to give them the information needed prior to them casting their vote. It is their choice and right of what they do with that information. Understand, more people are aware of the political corruption and hypocrisy than they wish or want to admit. So there's nothing for us to prove. Choose to be people who invoke change rather than people who irritate and strain. Dale Carnegie once wrote, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." In other words, give people the room to make their own mistakes. Without seeing that they were wrong, they would be blind to see what is right. Remember, every soldier present and gone have fought for the right of every American citizen to vote their own conscience. To insult and ridicule people for exercising their liberty to vote for their candidate is to also desecrate the efforts, memories, and sacrifices made by our heroes for said liberty. Please, show respect. Our nation depends on it. Welcome back, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio, here with Mike Phillip from American Duck Radio. Listen, Mike, you were saying some really deep stuff, and I'm going to continue working this stuff out. 2 minutes is not enough time to fix stuff. 2 minutes is not enough time to fix the stuff, so we can make everything look all pretty during the show. But we're going to do this, and okay, before going to the break, you were just saying something about the whole idea of America being, of your area where you are being basically starved out. Okay, we're talking about this whole idea of this present darkness and breaking the canopy of evil. You just shared something here, man, that I don't think people seem to understand, because technically speaking, in a war, in a battle like this, why is this not getting more national news? That these are not war crimes, but this is human rights wrongs. That I'm struggling with the terminology here to get this right, but this is downright evil.
It is, yeah, and well, it's a tale as old as time. It's siege warfare. Now, listen. At the same time that, and a lot of American interests have spent a lot of money to demonize Alberta's oil patch. Okay, we have the third largest reserves in the world. The Alberta economy at one time was number 3 on the planet. There was so much wealth here, and Ottawa, Eastern Canada, and the elites and the Laurentians never ever helped us get it going. They had no interest in Western Canada or giving them a leg up whatsoever. So what happened was you had American companies that were sending people up, and they were drilling wildcat wells. And wildcat drilling is when you send in a crew to just dig a hole. There's no geologists, there's no there's no research as to whether or not there's a zone with oil or gas. You just drill holes. So Leduc 1 is the discovery well, which is actually just about 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now. The very first well that produced in Alberta. They have a big derrick standing there, and but it was Americans that helped us get it going. Well, all of a sudden there was a bunch of money It was, like Jed Clampett out shooting at some food, and up from the ground come a bubbling crude. Turns out there was oil everywhere around here. And so then all of a sudden, Ottawa got very interested in Alberta. So Justin Trudeau, our current prime minister's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, introduced the National Energy Program, or NEP, which shut down our oil production back in the 70s. They also made, and this is before Trudeau, but they introduced what was called the Equalization Act. The Equalization Act was under the auspices of taking from the rich and giving to the poor. So we're going to take billions and billions of dollars out of Alberta and give it to the maritime provinces, because those people over there are very poor because they can't fish anymore, because we signed this UN treaty that shut down the fisheries. And then NAFTA came in, and all the manufacturing left Ontario and the maritime provinces and went down to Mexico. Remember Ross Perot, it's going to be a giant sucking sand, and that's the sand industry going down. Well, that's what happened here too. And so Ottawa has starved Alberta out. Just yesterday, the minister of whatever, everybody's a minister up here. Anyways, they announced that they're going to give $320 million for Newfoundlanders and Maritimers to keep up offshore drilling for oil in the Atlantic. But they are shutting down Alberta's oil because, it's dirty, right? So, and so for Trump, this cannot be overstated. This can't be emphasized enough. For Trump to pull an end run around Justin Trudeau and the Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, and give us access to what they call tidewater so we can get our resources out, I can't state how big that is. And a lot of people are scratching their head and saying, why now? Why would the president do this now? Well, I'll tell you why. Because remember he mentioned buying up Greenland? Yeah. Well, this is Manifest Destiny 2.0, and Alberta has the youngest, most educated, hardest working population in this confederation called Canada. You know how everybody's crying about the Confederate flag? Well, when you see that red maple leaf, that's a Confederate flag, okay? Did I just blow your mind?
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot going on here, a lot. And Americans generally tend to think that they're the center of the universe and nothing else is happening anywhere else. But there are a lot of Americans here in Alberta that want to cut ties with Canada and forge their own destiny as a state. And I believe that it's going to happen. And this guy right here, I'm going to be the Thomas Jefferson of it. I'm going to be remembered as a founding father of the state of Alberta. I'll be on the money, baby.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I think it is great. That'll be something else. Make sure that there's at least, even if I'm on the lowest currency, I want my face on there.
We'll make you secretary of I don't know, whatever, coffee. How's that?
Coffee, yes, we can definitely do that. So we're gonna Mike, I'm telling you, this is powerful in the dynamics, and this is what people don't like doing. Okay. People don't like talking about the reality of evil. They don't like. There's so much is being heard. I was at a Joe Jorgensen rally this weekend, and I ran into this black guy. His name is Anthony, he was just talking about how his son's telling him, you need to go check out Joe Jorgensen, and he's from the Detroit area, and I was like, oh dude, it's great. I want to hear your story. I want you to tell. He's like, dude, it's really bad. I mean, it's just really bad here. What you don't hear on the news, people when they think of Canada, they think, oh, better healthcare system, blah, 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 all this other different information that they hear, but no one hears the real story. No one hears the real side. And you see this. Go ahead.
Well, that whole, Michael Moore made the movies and Canada's like, nobody locks their door. There's no crime. Healthcare's free. It is a lie. Toronto has had Toronto's getting up there in shootings daily with just about any major American city lately. So I mean, when they tell you, like, socialists in the U.S. and communist Marxists in Canada, they're globalists. They don't believe in borders. They don't believe. See, they love to take Canada and say, see, that's how you do it. Those guys, they've got it right. Yeah. Right? And all of the ones that were going to move here when Trump got elected, notice that none of them did. Whenever somebody gets big in Canada, their first goal is to get big in the United States of America. Look at John Candy, Bill Murray, Leslie Nielsen, Jim Carrey, right? And then a lot of them move down to the U.S. and get on the screw the United States bandwagon. And I can't stand it when smarmy Canadians do that, because they trash the very thing that they coveted the most, is making it big and living in LA, and then they turn around and dump on it. So, no, when you hear that there's no crime in Canada, and when you hear that healthcare is free, it is a flat out lie, and it's being used to brainwash Americans into thinking that your system of government is inferior and that there's this utopian paradise. Well, I'm here to tell you it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You sit here and I think about this, Mike, where there's this high level of deception, this high level of painting things that they aren't anyway. And speaking of painting things that they aren't, you've seen this, and parents, I want you to actually, if your children are watching this, I think you need to turn away from the image that we're about to show. And this is definitely not made for children. But for some strange reason, this person thought that he would be made for children. If you, those of you who aren't aware, a French primary school teacher who spent $45,000 covering his body in tattoos and turning the whites of his eyes black is banned from kindergarten because he gives children nightmares. Sylvain Helene was teaching at Dr. Murer Elementary School in Palaiseau. Parents of 3-year-olds complained he had given the children nightmares, and it was ruled that Helene, 35, could no longer teach children over the age of 6. Now, Mike, I'm sitting here. I've got to keep this image up here for a second. This is disgusting, man. Mike, explain to me.
Yeah.
Explain to me how in the world, in any dynamic, that this image, how is it that there shouldn't have been one moment, the moment that his eyes went black? I mean, listen, I have a tattoo. I'm not against tattoos. Okay. It's something I did before I became a Christian. You know what? Do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to kill you on there. I know the Bible says the body is a temple of the Lord, and we shouldn't desecrate it. I think it should be the inside of us and the outside of us. But you have to get to a point where you start seeing a level of the ink. And there's some really interesting ink. I almost wound up getting I almost went to the level of the Yakuza level of tattoos that I wanted to get. But I didn't. And God he got me to just stay focused on him. But you see this image of this man who's decided to do whatever he wants with his body. And I'm sitting there thinking, how long? You had to know that this was the next stage. You had to know, with all the ink that's on this guy, it was taking it to a whole nother level. You know, again, just speak, brother, because I'm right now, I'm about to scream.
Well, first of all, your Battle for Freedom logo would make a really cool tattoo. But the way I've always looked at tattoos is I've watched people, I've watched men and women that when I was very, very young, they had a bunch of tattoos and they looked cool. They looked badass. And now they are in their 70s and they've got that same tattoo and the colors are bleeding into each other and it's all misshapen. And look, it's vanity and number one, and number two, it looks like insecurity to me. Now, don't get me wrong. If you were in a unit in the military or say maybe a family coat of arms or something that you're really proud of, I get it. I get it. But if it's just for the purpose of decorating yourself like a Christmas tree, I think that's really lame. And I think it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm beautiful. I'm hot. I'm smart. You know what I mean? And so, and at the same time, it makes me think you're probably not comfortable in your own skin if you have to, and you're not just doing it, I don't think, for, and I can't speak for everybody. These are just my thoughts on tattoos. It's not just for when you're out in public and you're rolling up your sleeves so that everybody looks at you and how badass you are. I think there's an element of looking at yourself in the mirror at home and being pleased with what you see and thinking, there, I'm finally comfortable with what I am, because the way that God made me to look just didn't cut it. I wasn't fancy enough. I need more peacock feathers. That's kind of how I've always looked at tattoos. When I see these guys with like the tribal art or the barbed wire around the arm, there is no purpose for that except look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And so, fine, right? Now, this guy, I think, I look at that and I think, you're so vain, yet you're so insecure. And what he wants is this, what you're looking at right now, that snapshot in time. But can you imagine what this guy's going to look like when he's 70, Watson? And that's not that far away. It's right around the corner. Like, you get old fast, okay? Yeah. I remember turning 20 like it was yesterday. Now I'm 45, and 50's right around the corner. It's coming. You're not going to be beautiful forever. And I mean, that's not beautiful either. I remember a few years ago, I remember a time in my life where if you worked at 7-Eleven or if you were a lawyer or whatever, there was kind of a modicum of respect for yourself and how people perceived you. And so all of a sudden, I noticed that I was going into stores and these girls are wearing black lipstick and pentagrams around a locket around their neck. And there was a time when that just wouldn't have been acceptable. You wouldn't have been hired in the first place, okay, to even maybe clean up a 7-Eleven, maybe, or you know what I mean? We went down, my wife and I went down to Romulus, not the planet on Star Trek, but the area outside of Detroit, it's a burb of Detroit, Romulus. We went to meet my dad. It was the 4th of July. We ended up going to Toledo, catching the fireworks. But we were at a fairly nice hotel. And I remember walking in, and the kid working in the hotel had a full face tattoo. And he had little tattoos of hearts on the lobes of his ears. Now, first of all, when I was in school, that would have got you beat up, okay? Just because, like, people didn't tolerate stupidity and freaks, right? It wasn't cool to be a freak, right? Maybe that was wrong, but that's how it was. Second of all, I asked him, I said, why you got all that shit all over your face? And he goes, I'm just expressing myself, man. And I'm like, okay. I couldn't believe that he could get a job. Especially being the first face that you see walking into a hotel, right? And now this guy obviously has some kind of an issue where he thinks that lizards and amphibians are really cool and he wants to be one. Maybe he's the gay frog Alex Jones was talking about. I don't know. But yeah, but like, to think that that is acceptable to stand in front of kindergarten-aged children, really, I think, shows the level of degradation of society. I mean, first of all, that he would have been even considered for the position in the first place. I mean, that's an obvious outward sign of problems, right? Nature warns you in so many ways of what you're dealing with, right? Moths have bright colors on their wings, which tell birds this tastes terrible, don't eat it, right? Or just things like that. And so this guy has been, I don't know that he's possessed by a devil. He might be, he might not be. It could be that he's just extremely insecure and cannot stand to look at the jar of clay in the mirror. It's the clay shaking its fist at the potter saying, "Why hast thou made me so?" And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get in the crayons because you don't know how to make a face right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You talk about the whole idea of being demonically oppressed, and I don't know if you've seen this one.
I was watching that this morning.
So for those of you who aren't, those of you on Facebook, there is this video of a woman on a plane having what looks like a demonic attack on a plane. This is outside of Detroit. So as you sit there and you watch that, Mike, I can't play any more of that. I can't play any more of that. So there's shows that I'm intrigued to watch on Netflix. And I sit here and I watch them, and it's very interesting. As I try and do a landscape of most of the shows that I've tried to keep an open mind on Netflix, and I realize that a high percentage, or if not almost all of them, are based on darkness. You sit here you sit here and you watch these things happen, of these demonic possessions, and you'll see more and more of these things happening as the closer we get to the Lord returning. And then I sit here and I watch some of these shows that has darkness on it, and I'm saying to myself, how can they be so descriptive on the level of darkness that's there in these images if they are not truly meddling in the darkness, that they have a framework to work with as they're sitting there and they're talking about these things. They're showing these possessions. They're showing the pentagram is now, it's like the ultimate sign that's on in every show that this is your doorway to darkness. I mean, it's telling you this is exactly what we're invoking in Satan's symbol to basically say that this is where we're going to dabble. This is where we're going to go. Like you said, the pentagram is now, it's as almost commonplace as the cross in society, in Hollywood, in so many different places. So whether it's Netflix or, it doesn't matter what streaming platform you are on, the pentagram it's now more powerful than the cross, because darkness is the overarching theme that you have in streaming. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, and I've watched that myself too. At the same time, though, so I mean, there's the lady on the plane is freaking out and screaming. You wonder, okay, so where did this start, right? How did we get to this place? Well, how many Americans and Canadians, first of all, are gorked out of their minds on prescription medications, right? Because especially Canada's talking about free pharmacare now, right? Included into the healthcare system so that your prescriptions are covered. And everybody's saying, that's great. That is just wonderful. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm affiliated with Dr. Peter Glidden, a naturopath. How many times does it mention in the Bible that God is your healer? He will heal you. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, right? But people are so drugged out. Now, I think that has a lot to do with it. I don't think that we would be where we are today if the medical system in the United States and Canada had not gone down the pharmaceutical route to begin with. I mean, they openly, we're talking about pentagrams and how bad that is. Well, I mean, look at a commercial during a break on Tucker Carlson or on CNN. Side effects include. You know what I mean? They tell you this might kill you. And so, but we've gotten to the place where they can go on TV and literally tell you, we're going to sell you something. It's for your health, but it will kill you.
Yeah.
So I think that drugs are a big part of it. I just read I read a post this morning. There were 231 deaths from COVID in Alberta, here where I live. And in the same time period, there was 479 deaths of Oxycontin or synthetic heroin that the medical system approved for use. Now, is a person that is flipping out, possessed by a devil? Maybe they're drugged out of their socks. Now, the other thing, does somebody that acts fairly decent and wears a suit and has a perfect haircut every day, but has zero problems passing a law that they know will cause economic hardship and suicide for millions of people, what level of demonic possession are we talking about? And how obvious is it all the time? I think, honestly, that woman on the plane, she needs help, clearly, right? But that looks like a prescription drug thing to me, or possibly illegal drugs, or a mix of both.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's a good point too, because especially when we get to this aspect of the whole idea of drugging out everybody, because that seems like that's the only direction that people want to go in terms of handling issues. Because prayer has to be the last thing. I mean, it's serious. I mean, what we have failed to do. And what we have failed to do is do better in drawing people into a relationship with Christ, especially in the church, of making disciples. That whole powerful thing of bringing people to the realization of truth and helping them realize that the drugs are not their solution. God is the solution. And everybody's like, well, stop putting your faith in this mythical creature who has no. He's ever present. This is talking about this present darkness that we see, that this broadcast is talking about this present darkness, but we want you to know about the ever present glory of God that can fix and take care of any situation. And it's critical that the church gets to the point that we start injecting God back into the culture, into our homes, into the community, so that people can be free, brother. We got 3 minutes left. You just listen, promote yourself, hit your point of what you want to say, and you're gonna close us out.
American Rock Radio is live at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time every day on Mojo 50 Radio. I want to say.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you have 3 minutes. I'm just saying I'll close this when the music starts playing, but you take the next 3 minutes, brother. Go for it.
Okay, listen, God is real. He has a name. He has a personality. And he wants to get to know you. And he promised, ask and it shall be given. You can achieve healing. You can achieve freedom. You can have anything you want. Everything. Look, when I got involved with Dr. Glidden, my wife was in so much chronic pain that she was crying herself to sleep every night. I took her to the pain specialist, the rheumatologist, the doctors, right? It was free, right? I got access to all that. It didn't help. I prayed. I went the natural route. God lined me up with a man that had knowledge, and 6 months later, she was pain-free, okay? You can have it. You just have to ask for it and want it in your heart. Now, we talk about pentagrams, right? And how society is kind of going more satanic. Well, in my view, the only reason that you would turn to Satan is if you were a drugged out idiot. And so that's Satan's army, bunch of drug addicts, a bunch of people that would think that Joe Biden is a good candidate to run your country. That's Satan for you. And if this is his big freak out, if this is Satan's big freak out, you suck, buddy. You're terrible. I can't believe that people believe these stupid lies that you put out. And you know what's coming. Your time is short, and you'll be given power to make war against the saints. The whore will be drunk on their blood, but you're going down, sucker. Your time is short. Go ahead, freak out in your playpen. Do what you want. You're going to take a lot with you, but not me. And I'm going to seek to set people free from your clutches, because I know what you really are. You're a drugged out moron. You're a rebellious teenager. You've already lost everything. Okay? You're Cobra Kai. I'm Daniel LaRusso. We're coming for it, buddy. I've been watching Cobra Kai, and I love it. It's so 80s stupid that I love it. I can't watch these series TV.
We're gonna start actually watching. We're gonna start watching it this week. But no, see,
Oh,
and this is
yeah, it's so cool.
so what you just heard in the last 45 seconds is why I love Mike Phillip. You know what? And hopefully there'll be an audio sound that we could do it for this as well too, because I know that we're gonna see if there's a Brad version of
Watson
that basically says Mike Phillip, so that we can make certain that people are hearing this. Folks, listen. Mike Phillip comes on 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the morning, 8 a.m., you have Brad Staggs and Daily Mojo, and 5 p.m., you have Politically Correct Radio. We appreciate every last one of you tuning in. Please be a light to this community, and thank you, Mike, once again. Glory to God, everyone. We'll talk to you on the flip side. Streaming.